At first glance, these structures seem impossible, vast enough to bend skylines, complex enough to challenge physics, and ambitious enough to blur the boundary between engineering discipline and human imagination. Every year, humanity commits trillions of dollars, billions of labor hours, and generations of knowledge into megaprojects built at a scale and complexity where a single decision can reshape landscapes, economies, and the future of entire regions. In Uruguay, the Laguna Garzón Bridge forms a perfect circle over open water, a megaproject designed not only to move vehicles, but to deliberately slow human behavior, protect fragile coastal ecosystems, and redefine how infrastructure can coexist with nature. In France, the Pont Jacques Chaban-Delmas rises vertically above the Garonne River, a moving megastructure whose mechanical precision and timing allow massive ships and modern cities to share the same river without compromise. In China, the Tianlong Mountain Road clings to sheer cliffs, a gravity-defying ribbon of asphalt carved into rock where every curve reflects extreme terrain, altitude, and the limits of human endurance. Behind each of these projects lies staggering scale, layered complexity, and decisions whose consequences will echo for decades, revealing how megaprojects are not merely built, but how they change the world forever. Taipei 101. Rising from the seismic heart of East Asia, Taipei 101 stands as a scientific response to one of the most unforgiving geographic environments on Earth, where colliding tectonic plates and powerful Pacific typhoons shape daily life. Completed in 2004, the tower climbs to approximately 1,667 feet, once claiming the title of the tallest building in the world, and doing so in a region where skyscrapers are expected not just to stand tall, but to survive. Its tiered design draws inspiration from the bamboo plant, a symbol in Asian history chosen for its flexibility, and architectural philosophy reflected deep inside the structure, where a massive tuned mass damper weighing more than 1,450,000 pounds hangs near the upper floors, silently counteracting wind forces and earthquake motion to stabilize the entire building. That invisible battle with nature allows life inside to continue uninterrupted, turning the tower into a functioning vertical city of offices, retail spaces, and public interiors stacked hundreds of feet above the ground. Speed and precision define the journey upward, as elevators once ranked among the fastest on the planet carry visitors from street level to the observation deck in under 40 seconds, compressing nearly 1/2 mile of vertical distance into a single ascent. From the observatory, rising more than 1,247 feet above Taipei, the city unfolds as a living map of rivers, mountains, fault lines, and urban growth, revealing how geography, history, and engineering collide. More than a landmark, Taipei 101 is a transformational megastructure where scale, complexity, and scientific innovation converge, proving that modern architecture can adapt to nature rather than attempt to overpower it. Gateshead Millennium Bridge. On the River Tyne, where coal ships once powered the British Empire, a quiet engineering revolution now unfolds in slow motion. The Gateshead Millennium Bridge emerged in the early 2000s, not as a monument to size, but as an experiment in movement, redefining how infrastructure could respond to geography rather than dominate it. Stretching approximately 344 feet, the bridge connects Newcastle and Gateshead at a human scale, designed exclusively for pedestrians and cyclists, restoring access to a river long shaped by heavy industry. Instead of rising vertically or splitting apart, the entire steel structure tilts as a single organism, driven by hydraulic systems that rotate a mass weighing more than 800 tons, a concept never before realized at the time of its construction. This slow rotation earned the bridge its nickname, the Blinking Eye, as it opens and closes across the Tyne with deliberate precision, allowing ships to pass while turning mechanical motion into public spectacle. More than a crossing, the bridge became a catalyst for urban regeneration, transforming neglected riverbanks into cultural and social spaces, and symbolizing the region's transition from industrial muscle to design-led innovation. Awarded the Sterling Prize, the Gateshead Millennium Bridge stands as proof that scientific ingenuity, historical context, and geographic sensitivity can converge to create infrastructure that moves not only steel, but cities themselves. Atomium. Built for the 1958 World's Fair in Brussels, the Atomium was conceived as a temporary structure meant to last only the duration of the exhibition. Its overwhelming public appeal and its ability to turn abstract science into a tangible experience persuaded city leaders to preserve it, transforming a short-lived display into a permanent symbol of scientific ambition. Rising about 335 feet high, the monument represents an iron crystal magnified more than 165 billion times, scaling the invisible world of atoms up to the size of a city landmark. The structure is composed of 9 stainless steel spheres, each roughly 59 feet in diameter, large enough to contain full exhibition halls, galleries, and public spaces within their curved shells. These spheres are connected by tubular corridors that function as both structural links and passageways, merging architecture with molecular geometry. Inside the tubes, escalators and walkways move horizontally and diagonally, while an integrated LED lighting system projects dynamic patterns along the interior, creating the impression of energy flowing through atomic bonds. At the center, a vertical elevator travels through the main tube, lifting visitors to the highest sphere in approximately 20 seconds. From this top sphere, which houses an observation deck and panoramic restaurant, visitors can view Brussels and, on exceptionally clear days, landscapes extending nearly 40 miles beyond the city. Today, the Atomium operates as a museum and immersive scientific landmark, preserved because it captured a rare moment when humanity believed science could shape not only technology, but culture, space, and the future itself. Laguna Garzón Bridge. Located on Uruguay's southeastern coast, the Laguna Garzón Bridge is not just a crossing, but a deliberate experiment in how infrastructure can reshape human behavior and environmental awareness. Designed by architect Rafael Viñoly and opened in the mid-2000s, the bridge connects the coastal departments of Maldonado and Rocha, while spanning a protected lagoon shaped by wind, tides, and fragile wetlands. Instead of a straight line built for speed, the bridge forms a perfect circle, roughly 680 feet in diameter, a geometry that physically forces vehicles to slow down and transforms driving into observation. This circular motion reduces traffic stress on the ecosystem while creating continuous pedestrian walkways that offer panoramic views across the lagoon, where migratory birds, shifting sandbanks, and shallow waters define the local geography. By replacing an older ferry system, the bridge allows uninterrupted transport while preserving natural water circulation and sediment movement beneath its structure. More than a transportation solution, the Laguna Garzón Bridge merges mobility, landscape conservation, and public experience into a single architectural gesture. Longaberger Basket Building. Rising from the quiet landscape of Newark, Ohio, the Longaberger Basket Building turns corporate architecture into a literal object of American commerce and identity. Completed in the late 1990s, this 7 stories office building was conceived as a full-scale replica of the company's iconic handcrafted basket, transforming brand symbolism into inhabitable space. Standing about 180 feet tall, the structure reimagines vernacular craft at architectural scale, blurring the line between novelty and serious engineering. Its most striking features are the two massive basket handles arching over the roof, each weighing hundreds of tons and equipped with an internal heating system to prevent ice buildup during Ohio winters. Beneath its playful exterior, the interior functions like a conventional corporate headquarters, with standard floor plates, elevators, climate control systems, and workspaces designed for daily office life. The building also reflects a specific moment in American economic history, when manufacturing brands sought permanence and visibility through physical landmarks rather than digital presence. More than a curiosity, the Longaberger Basket Building stands as a case study in how geography, engineering, and marketing converged, proving that even ordinary objects can be magnified into monuments that reshape the cultural landscape. Jacques Chaban-Delmas Bridge. Spanning the Garonne River in Bordeaux, Jacques Chaban-Delmas Bridge represents a modern dialogue between engineering precision, urban history, and the geography of maritime trade. Inaugurated in the early 2000s, the bridge was designed to solve a centuries-old challenge faced by river cities: how to allow both dense urban traffic and tall ocean-going ships to pass through the same narrow corridor. Stretching more than 1,870 feet, it links Bordeaux's historic center with newly developing riverfront districts, stitching old stone facades to contemporary urban growth. At its core lies one of Europe's largest vertical lift spans, capable of rising over 220 feet, high enough for cruise liners and tall sailing vessels to glide beneath without altering their course. When the roadway ascends, the movement unfolds slowly and in perfect synchronization, transforming raw mechanical force into a public spectacle that draws crowds along the riverbanks. Named after Jacques Chaban-Delmas, a former mayor who helped redefine Bordeaux's modern identity, the bridge stands as both infrastructure and civic symbol. More than a crossing, it demonstrates how advanced engineering can respect geography, celebrate motion, and turn a functional necessity into a defining landmark of a city shaped by water and trade. F&F Tower, also known as the Revolution Tower, rises above Panama City's dense coastal skyline as a bold experiment in how residential skyscrapers respond to climate, geography, and rapid urban transformation. Completed in the early 2000s, the tower emerged during a period when the city was redefining itself as a global financial and logistical crossroads connecting the Atlantic and Pacific worlds. Standing roughly 807 feet tall, the structure twists progressively from its base to its crown, rotating more than 90 degrees along its vertical axis and creating a silhouette that appears to move even while standing still. This spiral geometry is not a visual trick, as the rotation disrupts dominant wind patterns, reducing wind loads and improving overall structural stability in a tropical coastal environment. The building is primarily composed of luxury apartments, each oriented differently as the tower ascends, maximizing panoramic views of the ocean, the Panama Canal corridor, and the expanding urban grid below. More than a residential landmark, the F&F Tower represents a moment when engineering, physics, and urban ambition twisted together, redefining how a modern skyline could grow upward rather than outward. Ping An Finance Center rises from Shenzhen's skyline as a physical expression of how finance, engineering, and atmospheric science converge in the vertical age of cities. Completed in the late 2010, the tower was conceived as the headquarters of Ping An Insurance, reflecting Shenzhen's rapid transformation from a manufacturing zone into a global financial and technology hub. Reaching nearly 1,965 feet in height, it ranks among the tallest buildings on Earth, redefining scale in a city shaped by speed, density, and economic momentum. Its slender, tapering form was carefully engineered to confront the realities of southern China's climate, where typhoons and seasonal storms generate extreme wind forces at high altitude. Originally planned to exceed 2,000 feet, the final height was deliberately reduced due to aviation safety concerns and evolving regulatory limits, demonstrating how airspace can shape architecture as much as land. Inside, the tower integrates offices, conference facilities, retail zones, and an observation deck, stacking multiple layers of urban life within a single vertical footprint. More than a skyscraper, Ping An Finance Center stands as a scientific response to wind, regulation, and urban ambition, proving that modern skylines are engineered not only for height, but for survival, efficiency, and global identity. Qianlong Mountain Road. Carved directly into the limestone cliffs of Guizhou, this mountain road exists as a calculated response to terrain that once blocked movement entirely. Engineers shaped the route into a sequence of tight hairpin turns, allowing vehicles to overcome extreme elevation changes within distances of only a few thousand feet, where straight ascents would have been impossible. Rather than cutting through the mountains, the roadway clings to their contours, with sections excavated straight from vertical rock faces and drops plunging several hundred feet beyond the edge. This design controls slope and speed at the same time, forcing vehicles to slow while maintaining traction and structural safety along unstable karst formations. Built to replace indirect and dangerous mountain paths, the road reduced journeys that once took several hours to travel into trips measured in less than 1 hour, permanently altering access between remote communities. Despite its functional purpose, the road's geometry creates continuous lookout points, turning every curve into a vantage over valleys and peaks below. Focused entirely on performance rather than spectacle, the project demonstrates how modern infrastructure can compress distance and risk, transforming one of the region's most inaccessible landscapes into a reliable line of movement. Hangzhou Olympic Sports Center Stadium rises from the river plain like a metallic crown, conceived not as a single venue, but as a mega project that reshaped an entire urban district through scale, capital, and engineering ambition. Planned over more than 10 years and delivered through multiple construction phases, the overall investment reached billions of dollars, funding not only the stadium itself, but transport links, public spaces, and supporting infrastructure designed to function for decades beyond the Olympic moment. Its vast steel shell weighs tens of thousands of tons, engineered with long-span trusses and precision-welded joints that allow the structure to resist typhoon-level winds and regional seismic forces while maintaining a fluid, lightweight appearance. Inside, the stadium can accommodate over 80,000 spectators, relying on layered circulation systems, underground service corridors, and digital crowd management platforms, processing millions of data points in real time to move people safely and efficiently. The project demanded construction techniques normally reserved for bridges and aerospace structures, including modular assembly and high-tolerance fabrication, executed at a speed rarely seen at this scale. Originally envisioned as a temporary Olympic centerpiece, it was deliberately preserved and expanded into a permanent civic engine, proving how a short-term spectacle can evolve into long-term infrastructure shaping culture, mobility, and urban identity. Helix Bridge was conceived not as a shortcut across water, but as an experiment in translating molecular science into urban infrastructure. Spanning approximately 280 meters, the pedestrian bridge links Marina Center with Marina South, stitching together key economic zones of Singapore's downtown core. Its form is inspired by the DNA double helix, realized through a pair of intertwining stainless steel tubes engineered to resist tropical heat, humidity, and constant vibration. The structure contains more than 6,000 curved steel members, each fabricated with unique angles, turning assembly into a three-dimensional puzzle solved over several years. Construction stretched across nearly 5 years, involving precision welding, marine piling, and load testing performed above an active tidal channel. Total investment reached roughly 63 million Singapore dollars, justified not by traffic capacity, but by long-term cultural and tourism impact. At night, an integrated LED system illuminates the bridge according to sequences inspired by genetic base pairs, transforming engineering logic into public spectacle. Rather than serving vehicles, it prioritizes human movement, public space, and symbolic value. Helix Bridge stands as proof that infrastructure can function simultaneously as science education, economic catalyst, and civic landmark. Walt Disney Concert Hall. In downtown Los Angeles, where traffic noise once defined the rhythm of the city, this concert hall introduced an entirely different kind of soundscape. Opened in the early 2000s, the building did more than house music. It rewired how the city listened to itself. Its stainless steel surfaces bend and fold like frozen motion, catching California sunlight by day and reflecting city lights by night, turning architecture into a constantly shifting visual score. Behind the sculptural exterior, the interior was shaped with scientific precision, using curved wooden panels in calculated volumes to control sound reflections measured in fractions of a second. The seating surrounds the orchestra from all directions, reducing the distance between musician and listener to just a few dozen feet, allowing acoustic energy to travel naturally without electronic amplification. Every surface was tuned so sound arrives evenly, whether you sit near the stage or high above it, creating clarity without echo and power without distortion. Funded largely by a gift exceeding $50 million, the project honored Walt Disney's legacy not through spectacle, but through lasting cultural infrastructure. As the home of the Los Angeles Philharmonic, the hall helped shift downtown from a business district into a cultural destination. More than a building, it became proof that architecture, physics, and music can align to change how an entire city feels, sounds, and moves. Wuhan's suspended monorail represents a shift in how megacities experiment with urban mobility by lifting public transit into the air rather than burying it underground. The line stretches for more than 10 kilometers, running above streets, rivers, and residential districts on elevated guideways that keep ground-level land largely untouched. Instead of rolling on steel rails, each train hangs beneath a single concrete beam, using rubber tires and distributed traction systems to reduce vibration and operational noise. The project required an investment measured in multiple billions of yuan, reflecting not only construction costs, but also long-term research into suspended rail technology adapted for dense cities. Planning and construction extended across nearly a decade as engineers tested load behavior, wind resistance, and emergency evacuation procedures unique to inverted trains. Because the system runs above existing roads, it minimized large-scale demolition and shortened construction disruption compared to traditional subways. Energy consumption per passenger is significantly lower than private cars, contributing to reduced urban emissions and improved air quality along the corridor. Wuhan's suspended monorail is not just transportation infrastructure, but a live laboratory where engineering ambition, economic efficiency, and urban ecology intersect above the city streets. Jiangsu Grand Theater stands on the edge of Jinji Lake as a cultural mega-project that merges architecture, engineering, and regional ambition into a single performance space. Conceived as a long-term investment exceeding several billion yuan, the project reflects how cultural infrastructure can function as economic stimulus rather than pure symbolism. Construction unfolded over nearly 6 years, involving thousands of workers and specialists coordinating structure, acoustics, stage mechanics, and lakefront foundations simultaneously. The complex covers more than 100,000 square meters, housing multiple halls designed for opera, symphonic music, drama, and experimental performance. Advanced acoustic systems were tuned to millisecond precision, ensuring sound travels evenly to seats positioned more than 40 meters from the stage. Below ground, massive vibration-damping foundations protect performances from nearby traffic and rail activity. Beyond art, the theater reshaped its surrounding district, attracting hotels, creative industries, and year-round tourism linked to festivals and international productions. Energy-efficient lighting, intelligent climate control, and lakeside microclimate planning reduce operational consumption while preserving the natural ecosystem nearby. Jiangsu Grand Theater ultimately operates as a civic engine where science, economics, and culture perform together long after the curtain rises. Qingdao Bay Bridge stretches across Jiaozhou Bay as a statement of scale, speed, and national ambition rather than a simple crossing. Planned as a strategic investment of more than 10 billion yuan, the bridge was designed to compress regional travel times while accelerating economic integration around the bay. Construction advanced at an extraordinary pace of just 4 years, a schedule that required continuous offshore work, prefabrication yards operating day and night, and tightly synchronized logistics. The structure extends roughly 26 miles, making it one of the longest sea bridges ever built at the time of completion. Engineers drove tens of thousands of steel piles into the seabed, each calibrated to withstand corrosion, tidal forces, and seismic stress over decades of exposure. Its deck system was assembled from massive precast segments, some weighing more than 80 tons, allowing precision placement even in rough marine conditions. Beyond transportation, the bridge reshaped Qingdao's economic geography by linking ports, industrial zones, and the international airport into a single high-speed corridor. Traffic patterns shifted almost overnight, cutting commutes by more than half, reducing fuel consumption, and lowering long-term emissions despite rising vehicle volume. Qingdao Bay Bridge ultimately functions as floating infrastructure, where engineering discipline, environmental science, and regional economics converge above open water. Bubble Palace emerges on the cliffs of the French Riviera as an experiment in architecture that rejects straight lines and embraces human biology. Conceived by architect Antti Lovig and completed after nearly 14 years of incremental construction, the project treated the house as a living organism rather than a static object. Instead of conventional investment logic, millions of dollars were poured gradually into handcrafted concrete shells, each poured on site and shaped by hand, resulting in a total interior area of roughly 12,000 square feet. The structure is composed of more than 10 interconnected spheres, each bubble calibrated to acoustic softness, natural airflow, and thermal stability. Walls curve continuously, distributing structural stress evenly and reducing material fatigue compared to flat surfaces. This geometry also minimizes sharp pressure points, a principle borrowed from aerospace and marine engineering. Construction relied on sprayed concrete over inflatable forms, a slow but precise technique that allowed complex shapes without heavy formwork. Socially, the palace challenged luxury architecture by prioritizing sensory comfort over visual symmetry, influencing later organic design movements across Europe. Bubble Palace stands as proof that radical design, long timelines, and experimental engineering can quietly reshape how humans imagine living space. China's Sky Garden represents a new chapter in how megacities attempt to grow upward without abandoning nature. Conceived in the context of China's rapid urban expansion during the early 21st century, the project blends architecture, environmental science, and urban ecology into a single vertical system. Rising more than 300 feet above ground, the structure integrates layered terraces filled with trees, shrubs, and engineered soil systems designed to survive extreme wind, heat, and seasonal rainfall. The investment scale reached well over $1 billion, reflecting not only construction costs, but long-term research into irrigation, structural loading, and plant resilience at altitude. Each garden level functions as part of a living infrastructure, with vegetation capable of absorbing thousands of pounds of carbon dioxide annually while reducing surrounding temperatures by several degrees Fahrenheit. Construction extended across nearly 8 years, slowed by the need to synchronize steel framing, root anchoring systems, and automated water circulation embedded directly into the building's core. Advanced drainage membranes and recycled greywater networks allow the gardens to operate with minimal external water demand. Beyond engineering, the project reshaped nearby real estate values, improved air quality, and introduced biodiversity corridors for birds and insects within a dense urban zone. China's Sky Garden stands as an experiment in scale, proving that future mega-projects may need to function as ecosystems, not just buildings. Umeda Sky Building rises in northern Osaka as a bold experiment from Japan's late 20th century economic peak, when cities competed to redefine their skylines through engineering ambition. Completed in the early 1990s after roughly 7 years of planning and construction, the project required an investment estimated at over several $100 million, reflecting both land value and structural complexity. The building consists of two 40-story towers, each climbing to approximately 173 meters, linked at the top by the floating garden observatory. Connecting the towers at such height demanded precision steel fabrication and tuned mass calculations to manage wind loads common in Osaka Bay. Escalators suspended inside a glass tube carry visitors upward, exposing the mechanics of vertical transport while minimizing structural interference. Umeda Sky Building demonstrates how long construction timelines, complex engineering, and urban context can merge into a mega-project that reshapes both skyline and city life. Tower Bridge stands over the River Thames as a product of Victorian Britain's obsession with engineering, empire, and urban logistics. Conceived in the late 19th century, the bridge took more than 8 years to build and demanded an investment equivalent to hundreds of millions of dollars today, reflecting the scale of London's expanding economy. Its location downstream from the City of London forced engineers to solve a rare problem, allowing tall ships to pass while keeping road traffic moving in one of the world's busiest ports. The solution was a bascule system powered originally by steam, capable of lifting over 1,000 tons of steel using pressurized hydraulics. Twin towers rising nearly 210 feet anchor the structure, distributing load through massive foundations sunk deep into the riverbed. Today, Tower Bridge functions as both transport infrastructure and cultural engine, drawing millions of visitors annually and reinforcing London's global identity. Chengdu SKP Park marks a radical shift in how commercial megaprojects merge with landscape science in Western China. Developed in the heart of Chengdu during the late 2010 era, the project required an investment exceeding $1.5 billion, reflecting its scale as both retail infrastructure and urban ecological experiment. Instead of rising vertically, the complex was built largely below ground, covering more than 1 million square feet while preserving a continuous green park at street level. This geography-driven design reduces heat island effects and lowers ambient surface temperatures by several degrees Fahrenheit across surrounding neighborhoods. Construction stretched over nearly 6 years, slowed by complex soil stabilization, groundwater control, and the integration of load-bearing green roofs capable of supporting mature trees. Chengdu SKP Park demonstrates how future megaprojects may hide their mass underground while letting cities breathe above. Xiaolongdi Dam rises along the middle reaches of the Yellow River as one of China's most strategic experiments in river control and sediment science. Conceived in the late 20th century, the project took more than 10 years from initial excavation to full operation and required an investment estimated at over $3 billion. Geographically, the dam sits at a critical transition where the Yellow River carries some of the highest sediment loads on Earth, threatening downstream cities and farmland. Engineers designed the structure not only to generate power, but to release controlled floods capable of flushing billions of tons of silt downstream each year. At roughly 150 feet tall and stretching over 1,000 feet across the valley, the dam integrates spillways, sediment tunnels, and hydroelectric systems into a single hydraulic machine. Since completion, Xiaolongdi has reduced flood risk for millions of people, stabilized agriculture across the North China Plain, and reshaped how large rivers can be managed through science rather than force alone.